Hello, in today's Study History with Mr. P video, we're going to look at the case of witchcraft in the period 1500 to 1700. Now, your previous study of crime and punishment through time, from this you may remember that in the Middle Ages, people had been tried in church courts for witchcraft and were given relatively light sentences, and that this was because ordinary people were too poor to afford doctors, and therefore they relied on people such as wise women who used herbal remedies and magic charms to cure people. But in the 1500s and 1600s, this changed and laws were passed about witchcraft. So Henry VIII in 1542 had passed a new law that made witchcraft a serious crime, whereas before that it had been a minor crime. But witchcraft persecutions really began after a law passed in 1563 under Elizabeth I, which defined two types of witchcraft. Major witchcraft, which included trying to bring about death or raise the spirits of the dead, and this was punishable by death. And minor witchcraft, which was when somebody used magic or charms, which was punishable by imprisonment or the use of the stocks. And then witch hunt became significant after a 1604 Act passed under James I. The death penalty was given to anyone summoning evil spirits. Now, part of the reason why witchcraft became a serious crime was as follows. Firstly, during the 16th century, there were economic problems, including falling wages, rising unemployment, and this increased tension between people in small communities. Therefore, the death of livestock or poor crop yields were sometimes blamed on evil spirits and witchcraft, simply because people didn't understand the explanations for why these things happen as we do today. Fear of vagabonds also made richer people increasingly suspicious of the poor, and therefore many accusations of witchcraft were made by wealthier people against poorer people. Also, after Henry VIII had become head of the Church of England, witchcraft was treated as a crime against the king and state, not just a religious crime. And then, during the reign of James I, he wrote a book called Demonology. He was very much into understanding witchcraft and against witchcraft, and it was his views that led to this 1604 Act, which in turn led to persecution of witches. Equally, the English Civil War from 1642 led to economic and social upheaval, and again led to an increase in superstitious ideas because people still didn't understand the reasons why these things happened. There's also the interesting case of Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General. He was a self-proclaimed witchfinder who hunted witches. He used a range of interrogation methods to secure confessions from suspected witches, and this included starvation and sleep deprivation. Physical evidence as well, such as unusual marks or a teat that devils' familiars could suck on, was also looked for, and this stemmed back to the belief that witches were connected to the devil, and that witches therefore had this teat, this mark, that their familiars, their animals, could suck from. Now, Matthew Hopkins was paid for each witchcraft that he brought to the attention of the JPs. However, by the late 1600s, witchcraft began to be viewed in a different way and became to be seen as just superstition and less serious. And over time, we'll see later on, that witchcraft no longer became a crime.